Hello, pond people. Frogopolis here. I recently watched Together and it was very good. It's a solid body horror movie with great chemistry between the leads, helped by the fact that Alison Brie and Dave Franco are married in real life, adding an extra little layer onto what's already an already fascinating story. In the film, we have this couple who are clearly not on the same page. And we're watching all of these little issues and problems they've had with each other for all these years finally come to a head, while also finding themselves in this insane nightmare scenario where they literally cannot leave each other, and it's only going to get worse as the movie progresses. They did a really good job at mixing romance with humor and then mashing it together quite literally with visceral imagery that will stick with you for quite a while. Its use of close-ups on skin and touch become both romantic and nauseating, all made more effective by the great acting from the leads. The body horror itself looks great. There's a part near the end that's absolutely disgusting and it looks awesome. And I'm happy that it seems mostly practical, though it's understandable that there's some stuff they simply can't do without CG. Watching Together was a good motivator to talk about a genre I hold very dearly. I'm a big fan of body horror. It's a wonderfully creative genre that really showcases practical effects. There's just something about watching a movie and knowing that I can physically touch the thing I'm looking at if I wanted to. The craftsmanship and art of it is just so cool. And to think my first real exposure to this genre was Spy Kids. Remember the Fooglies? Look at these things. These terrified me when I was a kid. Holy shit. It gave me this fear that some mad scientist would just stick me into a machine and I would come out looking like that, being forced to turn into something I don't want to be and losing my free will. And also that this makeup and costumes look really weird and interesting. It's no surprise that Robert Rodriguez did horror movies before this. I remember in my teenage years watching Slither and having my mind blown by the fact that a human could turn into whatever the fuck that was, and gaining more of an interest and admiration for the people that were able to bring these monstrosities to life, and what a team of VFX artists could really make the body look like with enough imagination and resources. Something else I saw when I was younger that had a big impact on me, even though I didn't quite get it yet, was the music video for Tool's Schism. The makeup on each person looked so real to me when I was younger. At the time, it felt like I was watching this alien ritual that I wasn't supposed to see. In hindsight, I wish younger me didn't think this was so creepy, because now I can see how great it was. Speaking of music videos, Aphex Twin's Rubber Johnny was a big turning point for my taste in music and media. Everything was so weird and alien to me, but I couldn't get enough of it. My brain pretty much went, yep, that's what you're into now, and that hasn't changed for like 20 years. I would eventually see the works of John Carpenter and David Cronenberg. While Carpenter's filmography doesn't completely focus on body horror, you can't really talk about the genre without talking about The Thing, which is an excellent suspenseful film with a good sense of claustrophobia and amazing practical effects. Though it's been discussed so much that I'm not really sure what I could add to it. And there's movies in the same genre that had a bigger impact on me. With Cronenberg, the first of his works I distinctly remember seeing wasn't The Fly or Videodrome, it was Naked Lunch, which I really should watch again in a more modern lens, because when I first saw it, it was just this cool little movie with creepy creatures. I understood there was a deeper meaning to all of it, but it kind of went over my head. I could sit here and gush about all sorts of directors and their works, but if I were to do that, I'd be here for hours. Have you seen Titan? It's amazing! But let's try to keep this at least kinda focused. A movie that really changed how I viewed body horror and really horror as a whole was Clive Barker's Hellraiser. It was fascinating to me that these Cenobites were either these people that had been horribly punished in their pursuit for the ultimate pleasure, or had ascended into being something more, depending on how you look at it. Each Cenobite was visually striking and unique. You could see all these great little details in their makeup and outfits. They really leave an impression. But what really stood out to me was that they were secondary to this relationship slash family drama, but still fit in perfectly because it was all meshed together so well. Each character had so much depth to them. I like the fact that Julia and Frank are the antagonists, while the Cenobites are just these otherworldly figures. Frank resurrecting with his bones and skin growing out of the floor will always be one of my favorite scenes ever in a movie. And then Julia agreeing to bring him people so he can feed off them and continue to become more and more human. She's a great antagonist, and I'm glad they gave her more of a focus in the second film. They're both these selfish assholes that are willing to kill people in order to continue an affair they had years ago. I know there were several more of these movies, but Hellraiser 2 and the 2022 remake are the only ones that ever really stood out to me. The remake, besides looking fantastic, felt more in line with the first couple of movies. Also, much like the first two, I absolutely adored the costumes and makeup. They look incredible. The Hellraiser movies showed me that body horror can be beautiful in its own strange way. Even outside of the fact that it looks amazing, body horror is able to tell stories and create metaphors in a way I don't feel other genres would be able to do as well. At least for me. A great example of this is The Fly. Outside of Seth's horrific transformation, we have this tragic love story between him and Veronica. It's a big part of why everything happens. They get together because Seth showed her the telepod and she wanted to make an article about it. Seth is so passionate about his work and so charming that they start forming a relationship. It's really sweet to watch. They're both very likable characters, but also very human and flawed. Seth particularly is unfortunately relatable. The whole pod incident happens because Seth decides to go on the pod on his own without Veronica there, fueled by alcohol and the fear that Veronica has left him after a miscommunication. I like how his transformation wasn't immediate. It's small and gradual. I love how the makeup progressed as we went through the movie. Unfortunately for Seth, he only learns about the Fly splicing with him after he's gone through a considerable transformation and there's no way back. Something Veronica tried to warn him about, but he refused to listen. As he becomes more aggressive and irrational, he pushes Veronica further away. Despite this, when he contacts her months later asking for help, she goes to check on him. There's still a part of her that deeply cares about Seth and knows that this is all happening because of what he did and this isn't really him. While his body is now very clearly deteriorating, we can still see some of that charm and kindness shine through. In his final stages, he's lost most rational thought and barely looks human, but even at the end, after all the pain and chaos he put Veronica through, he has a moment of humanity, and Veronica can see that. He motions for her to put him out of his misery. She's a bit hesitant, but she knows she has to, so she does, and it's incredibly heartbreaking. To cap off my discussion of body horror, I would like to talk about my favorite in recent memory, The Substance. It's this scathing satire of unrealistic beauty standards and the toxic entertainment industry. It is told to us in a way that's just so cathartic and absolutely bonkers. Demi Moore is fantastic in this movie, and Margaret Qualley is also just so good. They work so well off each other. I love this story of her just trying to desperately hold on to her glory days, even at such a great cost. What would you do if you could suddenly be 10 or more years younger? Though if this movie is anything to go by, it would end horribly. I like the added caveat that she can only be her younger self for a set amount of time, and the simple yet strict rules that come with this drug she's taking. We get this self-destructive dynamic where her younger self obviously wants to stay like that forever. And when she's just in her regular body, she feels trapped and isolated. It's not like she can't go out and do things or have a social life, but she just feels, why bother, because I'm old, I'm worn out. There's a scene partway through where she's getting ready to go on a date with a guy who genuinely likes her. She looks stunning, but every time she looks at herself in the mirror, she doesn't like what she sees. It's really sad to watch. They really capture the pain and frustration that comes with thinking you're not enough. Of course, all of this is nonsense, but she's been in an industry that's told her that for so many years that she's just grown to believe it. So she grows to resent and hate her younger self. We know that she's going to get desperate and screw something up. This isn't going to last forever. Something is going to go terribly wrong. And it does, and it's spectacular. The substance is an incredible showcase of practical effects, mixed with a great story that isn't afraid to go all out. You can tell that every effect from the small to the grand had a lot of love put into them. I was in complete awe at what they were able to pull off on my first viewing, and I was losing my goddamn mind when I saw what her final form looked like. Look at this, look at all the details, it's incredible. On the off chance you're watching this and you haven't seen the substance, you really owe yourself to see all this stuff in action. The whole movie is such a cool experience. Thank you for watching and letting me share my passion for this genre with you. I loved going back and watching old favorites along with looking at behind the scenes pictures and footage. I hope my enthusiasm rubs off on you and you check some of this stuff out. There's tons of great body horror I wasn't even able to get to in this video. Like and subscribe or leave a little comment. Either way, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.